Chosen one, listen carefully. There is a reason your life keeps repeating the same painful patterns. There is a reason certain people enter your life carrying the same spirit, wearing different faces. And there is a reason the letter J keeps appearing in your story like a shadow you cannot escape. This is not coincidence. This is not bad luck. And this is not punishment. This is spiritual construction. Because what you thought was a trap was actually training. What you thought was abandonment was actually preparation. And what you called emotional exhaustion, heaven called armor building. The Most High has been allowing a mysterious cycle connected to J to continue for one terrifying reason. To forge you into someone darkness can no longer destroy. Chosen one, there are battles ordinary people will never understand. Some people were born to live comfortable lives. But you were born to survive spiritual warfare. Every betrayal, every delay, every heartbreak ever. Why confusing attachment connected to J was sent into your life to expose the weak places in your spirit. God was not trying to break you. God was exposing what still needed strengthening. You kept asking, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I keep attracting the same energy? Why does this cycle feel impossible to escape? Because iron cannot become a sword without fire, and your soul cannot carry divine authority until it survives pressure. The terrifying truth is this. The J connection was never mainly about romance, friendship, or emotional attachment. It was a spiritual mirror, a divine instrument, a heavenly test disguised as human connection. Every time you almost gave up, every time your heart shattered, every time you cried in silence while nobody understood your pain, heaven was watching your spirit evolve. You thought you were losing yourself, but God was removing weakness. Chosen one, some people are sent into your life to comfort you, but others are sent to activate you. J was not sent to complete you. J was sent to confront you, to expose your hidden wounds, to reveal your emotional addictions, to challenge your self-worth, to force you into spiritual maturity. Because there are demons assigned to stop your destiny that only a spiritually armored version of you can defeat. And God knew the old version of you was too fragile for the future He prepared, so He allowed cycles, painful cycles, confusing cycles, soul-draining cycles, not because He hated you, but because He refused to let you enter your destiny spiritually unprepared. Listen carefully, chosen one. Some lessons can only be learned through repetition. That is why the same type of betrayal returned, the same emotional confusion returned, the same spiritual exhaustion returned. Heaven kept replaying the lesson until your spirit finally awakened. Because once you finally see the pattern, the cycle loses power. And this is where your transformation truly begins. The enemy thought the cycle would destroy your faith, but instead it built discernment. It built endurance. It built spiritual sight. Now you notice energies faster. Now you recognize manipulation quicker. Now you can feel danger before it arrives. That did not come from comfort. That came from surviving the fire. Chosen one, warriors are not created in peaceful seasons. They are created in confusion, in rejection, in loneliness, in emotional warfare. And every battle connected to J was secretly teaching your spirit how to survive future attacks. You are being trained not to depend on people, but to depend on divine discernment. Because where God is taking you, emotional weakness would become dangerous. The future version of you cannot afford blindness, cannot afford desperation, cannot afford attachment to people who drain your spirit. So heaven used cycles to sharpen you. And now something is changing. You can feel it. The emotional chains are weakening. The confusion is fading. Your spirit is beginning to see the truth behind the illusion. You are realizing that every painful loop had a purpose. And the moment you truly understand the lesson, the trap breaks, because the real victory was never getting J to stay. The real victory was becoming spiritually untouchable. Chosen one, God was never building your comfort. He was building your armor. Chosen one. There is something they never told you about spiritual warfare. The enemy does not always attack through destruction. Sometimes the enemy attacks through repetition, the same emotional wound, the same type of betrayal, the same disappointment wearing a new face. And every single time you thought, maybe this time it will be different, but the cycle returned again. Why? Because heaven was trying to show you something your emotions kept hiding from you. You were not trapped because you were weak. You were trapped because your spirit still carried unhealed endings. And J became the instrument that exposed them. Listen carefully. Some people enter your life carrying peace, others enter carrying revelation. But there are rare connections that arrive carrying spiritual pressure designed to transform your soul forever. That is what this was. The J connection was never random. It was prophetic friction, a collision between who you used to be and who God is forcing you to become. Because the old version of you trusted too quickly, loved too deeply without discernment, ignored red flags, abandoned intuition, over-explained your worth, tolerated disrespect, stayed where your spirit was starving, and heaven said, no more. So God allowed a cycle painful enough to force awakening. Chosen one, pain changes people, but spiritual pain changes destinies, and every sleepless night, every moment of confusion, every emotional collapse, every silent cry, was secretly forging spiritual armor around your soul. You did not notice it at first, because armor is heavy while it is being formed. That is why you felt exhausted. That is why isolation increased. That is why you stopped feeling understood by certain people. You were outgrowing your old spiritual identity. The fire was changing your vibration. And not everyone can follow you through transformation. Some people only knew the broken version of you. But heaven was creating a warrior. There are demons that fear spiritually awakened people. Not because awakened people are perfect, but because awakened people can finally see. And once you see clearly, manipulation loses power. The enemy wanted you emotionally addicted. God wanted you spiritually aware. That is why the cycle became unbearable near the end, because your spirit was beginning to wake up. Suddenly things stopped making sense. The words no longer matched the energy. The promises no longer matched the actions. The emotional connection no longer felt safe. Your discernment activated. And once discernment activates, illusions begin collapsing. Chosen one, hear this carefully. The greatest danger to darkness is not a strong person. It is a discerning person, because strength alone can still be manipulated. But discernment sees what hides beneath appearances. That is why your spiritual vision had to sharpen through pain. You kept asking God, why won't this cycle end? And heaven kept whispering, because you still think this battle is about them. But the battle was always happening inside you. Your attachment, your fear of abandonment, your need for validation, your difficulty letting go, your emotional dependency, your silence when boundaries were violated. The cycle exposed all of it, not to shame you, but to heal you. Because healed people move differently. Healed people do not chase confusion. Healed people do not beg for consistency. Healed people do not abandon themselves trying to save others. And God knew your future assignment required emotion. Discipline, chosen one, you are not called to an ordinary destiny. That is why your preparation had to become brutal. Some people can survive being spiritually asleep. You cannot. Because there is an anointing over your life that demands awakening. The enemy recognized your potential long before you did. That is why attacks started early. That is why emotional warfare followed you. That is why betrayal repeated itself. That is why loneliness became familiar. Darkness wanted you exhausted before your purpose fully activated. But what the enemy failed to understand is this. Pressure was not killing you. Pressure was revealing you. Every cycle made you wiser. Every betrayal sharpened your intuition. Every heartbreak deepened your connection with God. And now you are becoming dangerous spiritually. Not dangerous because of revenge. Dangerous because you finally understand your worth. That changes everything. Because once a chosen one understands their worth, manipulated, ion stops working. Now you walk away faster. Now you question energies quicker. Now your spirit notices dishonesty immediately. That is armor. And armor is not created through comfort. Armor is created through survival. Chosen one, there were moments when you thought God abandoned you, but heaven was closer than ever during your breaking season. While you cried, God was strengthening discernment. While you felt rejected, God was disconnecting you from unhealthy soul ties. While you felt confused, God was teaching you to rely on spiritual sight instead of emotions, because emotions can lie, but discernment sees truth. And this is why the cycle had to continue until your spirit matured. A child spirit reacts emotionally. A warrior spirit observes spiritually. You are becoming the second one. That is why certain conversations drain you now. That is why fake energy irritates you now. That is why your tolerance for manipulation disappeared. You are changing. The firework. And the terrifying part is this. People connected to your old self will not understand the new you. They will call you cold when you create boundaries. They will call you distant when you protect your peace. They will call you arrogant when you stop accepting disrespect. But what they do not understand is this: you are no longer surviving emotionally. You are moving strategically spiritually. Chosen one, God had to teach you the difference between love and attachment, because attachment makes people ignore truth. Attachment keeps people trapped in cycles. Attachment fears loneliness more than suffering. But divine love never requires self-destruction. And once your spirit learned that lesson, the chains started breaking. You began choosing peace over chaos. You began choosing clarity over confusion. You began realizing that not every connection is meant to continue forever. Some people are assignments. Some people are mirrors. Some people are warnings. And some people are temporary spiritual classrooms. Jay was one of those classrooms. The lesson was never simply about another person. The lesson was about mastering yourself, mastering emotions, mastering discernment, mastering boundaries, mastering spiritual discipline. Because your destiny cannot survive uncontrolled emotions. God is preparing you for environments where many people will secretly envy your light. And if you still crave validation, they will destroy your peace. So heaven used cycles to train your spirit before your elevation arrives. Listen carefully. You are entering a season where your intuition will become stronger than ever before. Dreams will intensify. Discernment will sharpen. Your spirit will detect hidden intentions immediately. Why? Because the armor is almost complete. The old version of you kept ignoring warnings, but the new version of you feels danger before it speaks. That is spiritual evolution. Chosen one, do not hate yourself for how long the cycle lasted. Some souls learn through wisdom. Others learn through repetition. And God knew exactly what pressure would awaken you. The important thing is this: you survived. You are still standing. After every betrayal, after every emotional storm, after every confusing season, you are still here. That alone proves heaven is protecting your purpose. Because if God did not have a calling over your life, the attacks would have destroyed you already, but they failed. And now the same fire that once hurt you is becoming your strength. Now your pain carries wisdom. Now your silence carries authority. Now your spirit carries discernment, and darkness can feel the difference. That is why some people suddenly pull away from you. Your energy no longer welcomes deception. Your spirit no longer entertains draining connections. You are vibrating differently now. The armor changed you. Chosen one. One day you will look back at every painful cycle and realize something short. King. The thing you begged God to remove was the very thing God used to save your soul. Because without those cycles, you would still be blind, still overgiving, still emotionally dependent, still ignoring discernment, still shrinking yourself to keep others comfortable. But now your spirit sees clearly. Now your standards are higher. Now your connection with God is deeper than human approval. And that is the true purpose of spiritual armor, not to make you emotionless, but to make you untouchable by manipulation. The enemy wanted your destruction, but heaven used the attack as training. And now, chosen one, you are no longer trapped in cycles. You are emerging from them, stronger, wiser, sharper, protected, prepared for the destiny God was building behind the pain all along.